So why are independent school numbers plummeting? Why do they get worse A-level results than state schools? Why are they pricing themselves out of the market? Why are all their pupils from overseas? Why do they give nothing back? And why do they feel forced to answer these questions over and over again? Well, every spring the Independent Schools Council launches its census, and this wide-ranging and respected document, now in its 42nd year, allows schools, parents, governments and policymakers to have a dispassionate look at where independent schools fit into the UK's school landscape. And this year the facts and figures go a long way to busting some of the myths about independent schooling. Firstly, the headline figures. The 2016 census reveals that there are now 1,280 schools in the Independent Schools Council, up 13 from last year. We have 518,000 pupils in our schools, the highest number since records began. We educate 7% of all pupils in the country, but at A-level that percentage increases to 12%. So people who talk about declining numbers are completely wrong. Utterly wrong. Schools have faced numerous pressures through the recession, and some of those difficult times continue. But that's not something unique to schools. Like any other businesses, every year small numbers of our schools close, some merge, but just as many open up or grow. The top line figures tell us that independent schools are growing. Standards remain extremely high in the DFE 2016 performance tables. This year shows that in terms of A-level points per subject, in other words grades, independent schools occupy 84 of the top 100 places. A third of our GCSE entries were awarded an A-star last year compared to 7% nationally. The teacher-pupil ratio is still under 9 to 1, and more than 9 out of 10 of our pupils go to university, most to the top 15 of the rankings. Our pupils make up 40% of the entry to Oxford and Cambridge. Our pupils spend an average of 5 hours a week playing sport, 2 hours a week in performing arts. And a look at the Brits in the national sports teams on the stage or in films will tell you that this is time well spent. And more than half of our schools run formal character education classes, which might help to explain their success in careers and after university. So, do independent schools really get worse exam results than state schools? I mean, in 2015, half of A-level entries were graded A-star or A, nearly double the national figure, and almost 2/3 of GCSE and IGCSE entries were awarded A-star or A compared to a fifth nationally. And based on recent research by Durham University, we now know that independent schooling can result in GCSEs being close to a grade higher in every exam than they should be, and that independent schools add effectively 2 extra years schooling by the age of 16. Okay, fees have become a big issue in recent years, and schools are very mindful that hard-working families often make huge sacrifices to send their children to independent schools. The 2016 census reports an average annual increase of 3.5%, the lowest increase since 1994. The average termly fee in a day school is now £4,541, and our schools work very hard to remain competitive and affordable while facing the same pressures on salaries and pensions and maintenance costs as any school. Each school does what it thinks is right for their current and future pupils without sacrificing their excellence. Schools do everything they can to offer help with fees so children can apply whatever their background. A third of pupils, more than 160,000, receive fee assistance, which is now worth more than £850 million a year. Means-tested bursaries increased by 9% last year. So at ISC we give a very simple message to parents who would need financial assistance to send their children to an independent school. Find a school you like, find out about their bursaries, and then apply. Next, a myth that seems to have stuck, that the vast number of international students are propping up our schools. This year we found that 5.3% of our students are non-British with parents overseas, a far cry from the 1 in 5 that's often quoted by the media. What's more, in the census of 1982, that figure was 4.4%. So in 32 years, the proportion has increased by under 1%. If you ask schools about the impact of overseas students, they'll tell you that they help to raise academic standards, they bring a global perspective to the schools, they enrich the entire school community. A British independent school education is coveted the world over and is a huge international success story. It's just crazy to characterise the fact that our schools attract people from all over the world as being a weakness of some sort. Finally, one of the most perpetuated stereotypes is of independent schools taking everything, giving nothing, looking down on everyone. Well, this year's census looks at school partnership work in the greatest detail we've ever done. And what it shows is a picture of schools which have deep relationships with all those around them. 1,112 independent schools are in some sort of partnership with local state schools, and we estimate that about 10,000 state schools and 160,000 state school pupils benefit from those partnerships, and independent schools benefit too. For too long, our schools have been defined by outdated stereotypes, ill-informed preconceptions, and a plain disregard for the facts and figures. The ISC Census isn't a promotional brochure, it's a document which can help shed light on how our schools work and how they contribute to the nation in so many ways. You can see it for yourself on the website at www.isc.co.uk.